Brandon Sanderson's The Way of Kings is the first book in the Stormlight Archives, an epic fantasy set on the storm-ravaged world of Roshar. The story follows several seemingly unrelated characters whose lives slowly begin to intertwine as ancient threat returns. Starting thousands of years before the main story, powerful warriors known as the Heralds abandoned a sacred oath meant to protect humanity from devastating wars called Desolations. Believing the conflict was over, they left behind their duty and disappeared from history. After the Heralds abandoned their oath, the story jumps forward thousands of years to another pivotal moment, the assassination of King Gavilar Kholin. During a treaty celebration between the Alethi and the Parshendi, an assassin known as Sazeth, son Vallano, infiltrates the palace. Possessing incredible powers that allow him to manipulate gravity and run on walls, Sazeth then kills Gavilar, and despite overwhelming opposition. Before he dies, Gavilar urgently tells Sazeth to deliver a mysterious message. "Tell my brother he must find the most important words a man can say." This murder becomes a spark that ignites the war that dominates much of the novel. In the present day, Roshar is dominated by powerful kingdoms. One of them, Alethkar, is locked in a war against the Parshendi, a mysterious people who claimed responsibility for assassinating King Gavilar. For 6 years, the Alethi have fought a brutal war on the Shattered Plains, seeking revenge for the king's death. Our first major character is Kaladin. As a young man, Kaladin dreamed of becoming a surgeon, like his father Lirin. However, when his younger brother Tien is conscripted into the army, Kaladin volunteers as well in order to protect him and keep his young brother safe. Kaladin quickly proves himself to be a gifted soldier and a natural leader. Even as a kid, he was learning to fight during his free time, even in addition to the surgery. He earns the loyalty of the men around him and begins believing that honorable light eyes like High Lord Amaram truly exist. That belief is shattered when Tien is killed in battle, despite High Lord Amaram's promise that Tien would remain safe and never actually enter battle. Shortly afterwards, Kaladin and his squad defeat a shard bearer, winning a priceless shard blade and shard plate. Rather than rewarding Kaladin, Amaram then murders Kaladin's surviving men, steals the shards for himself, brands Kaladin a slave, and sells him. This betrayal becomes a defining wound of Kaladin's life and fuels his hatred of the Light Eyes throughout the novel. When we meet him in the story, Kaladin has lost nearly all hope. He struggles throughout the entire book trying to save others, but not giving his best efforts after memories of his betrayal come back. He arrives at the Shattered Plains as a bridgeman, essentially a disposable human shield forced to carry massive bridges across dangerous battlefields of chasms. Bridgemen suffer horrific casualties and are treated as less than humans. Despite his despair, Kaladin slowly begins rebuilding his will to live. Once arriving, he is assigned to Bridge 4, which consists of broken men, criminals, deserters, former soldiers, and slaves from every corner of Roshar. Most are expected to die within weeks. Kaladin slowly changes this. He teaches them discipline, combat skills, teamwork, and most importantly, self-worth. The men who had once given up on life begin caring about one another again and looking towards the future. Characters such as Rock, Teft, Moshe, Sigzil, and Lopen become Kaladin's closest companions. Their transformation from expendable slaves into a true brotherhood becomes one of the emotional cores of this novel. Along the way, he is aided by a mysterious spren named Syl, who appears to be far more intelligent and more important than any ordinary spren that we have seen. As Kaladin trains and protects his men, strange abilities begin to emerge. He survives ordeals such as the High Storm, where he's tied up overnight, that would normally be fatal to an average human. He discovers that he can manipulate gravity and survive wounds that should be fatal. Unknowingly, he's becoming one of the legendary Knights Radiant, ancient protectors long thought to be myths. Moving on to another point of view, we have Shallan Daver, a young noblewoman whose family faces financial ruin. She travels to become the ward of the famous scholar Jasna Kholin, sister of the murdered Gavilar. Shallan secretly plans to steal Jasna's soulcaster, a magical device now capable of transforming matter. However, as she studies under Jasna, she becomes fascinated by history, philosophy, and the mysteries of the world, putting her in direct conflict with what she wants to do and what she has to do. One of Shallan's most important experiences occurs when she witnesses Jasna confront a group of criminals in the alleyway. Rather than simply discussing morality in theory, Jasna deliberately allows the men to reveal their violent intentions before killing them with soul casting. The whole event shocks Shallan and forces her to grapple with difficult questions about justice, law, and morality. It also demonstrates that Jasna is far more dangerous than the scholarly noblewoman she initially appears to be. Jasna herself is investigating alarming evidence suggesting that the Voidbringers, legendary monsters blamed for past desolations, may not be mere myths. Through her research, she uncovers clues pointing towards an approaching catastrophe in the near future. Shallan eventually steals the Soulcaster, but discovers the shocking truth. Jasna never needed it to soulcast in the first place. Jasna herself possesses the power. After Shallan confesses everything, a furious but reluctant Jasna first kicks her out and then agrees to take her back and continue mentoring her, recognizing both her intelligence and potential, as well as her ability to identify truth. Dalinar. Moving towards Dalinar now, our third main character, major storyline. He's the brother of the late King Gavilar, and one of the most respected leaders in all of Alethkar. Dalinar is haunted by increasingly vivid visions that arrive during powerful high storms. In these visions, he witnesses scenes from ancient times and hears repeated commands to unite them. Many around him believe he is losing his mind. His political enemies exploit these doubts, even while members of his own family start to question his sanity. Yet Dalinar becomes convinced that the visions are real and carry an important message. He begins studying an ancient book called The Way of Kings, which teaches leadership through honor rather than conquest. This causes tension with all the other high princes, who value power and warfare over all else. The war on the Shattered Plains has become stagnant and almost meaningless. Rather than pursuing justice for Gavilar's death, the High Princes compete against one another to harvest valuable gem hearts found within giant crustacean creatures called chasm fiends. Each gem heart brings enormous wealth and prestige. As a result, the war has devolved into a brutal competition where political rivalries often matter more than defeating the Parshendi. This corruption disgusts Dalinar, who increasingly feels that the Alethi have lost sight of honor and purpose. As the war continues, Dalinar grows suspicious of High Prince Sadeas, an ally whose ambition may outweigh his loyalty. These storylines all collide during the Battle of the Tower. Dalinar and Sadeas have agreed to launch a combined attack against the Parshendi, only to discover that Sadeas has now betrayed Dalinar. He abandons Dalinar's forces deep in enemy territory, leaving thousands of soldiers trapped and facing annihilation. At this moment, Kaladin faces a defining choice. After everything he has suffered at the hands of Light Eyes, he has an opportunity to escape slavery forever, as Sadeas' bridge crew had planned to escape to freedom during this specific battle. Instead, he chooses to save Dalinar's army. Leading Bridge 4 into battle, Kaladin reveals his supernatural abilities and helps hold off an overwhelming enemy force long enough for Dalinar's men to retreat. Thousands of lives are now saved. After Kaladin saves Dalinar's army, Dalinar finally gains proof that true honor still exists. Kaladin, despite every reason to hate Light Eyes, chooses to protect people who never protected him. In the aftermath, Dalinar repays the sacrifice in an unforgettable way. To purchase the freedom of Kaladin and every bridgeman in Bridge 4, he gives Sadeas his priceless shard blade, a weapon worth kingdoms. When questioned about the trade, Dalinar responds that a priceless weapon is worth far less than the lives of honorable men. This is a symbolic rejection of Alethi values. He chooses human lives over power, wealth, and status. By the end of the novel, major revelations reshape the world. Dalinar learns his visions come from ancient figures, warning humanity of a coming desolation. Kaladin embraces his role as a protector and begins the path of the Knights Radiant. Shallan discovers evidence connecting the Parshendi to the long-feared Voidbringers. The book closes with one final shock. The Parshendi themselves reveal that they are desperately searching for a way to summon an ancient power known as the Everstorm, believing it may be their only chance of survival. The stage is now set for conflict far greater than the simple war of revenge. Ancient powers are awakening, forgotten oaths are returning, and the fate of Roshar hangs in the balance as the book enters its next phase in Words of Radiance.